Hello, welcome to Aviation 101 with Laura. I love reading, and I also am always very interested in aviation safety and aircraft accident investigations. So I want to bring you guys my top countdown of some of my favorite aviation safety related or aviation accident type of books that I've had over the years. So we are going to start with a few modern books, and then we'll go back in time towards some older books that are out of print, but really great if you can find them, especially for that person in your life when you need a gift and you're like, they are really interested in aviation safety. Me too. And so here we go. So this one's pretty good. It's called The Crash Detectives by Christine Negroni. I like her writing style. This is a book that just kind of explores many different accidents over the years, up through Malaysian Airlines 370. But she does a good job with like an investigative reporting type of style. So that's called The Crash Detectives on a Wing and a Prayer, edited by Malcom MacPherson. And this one is 15 different accounts of aviation disaster survivors. And it's pretty interesting because they basically take and interviewed various people's accounts. Sometimes it says where they were sitting, sometimes it's a crew member, but exactly what they saw, including even like the picture on the front is the Aloha Airlines 737, where part of the fuselage came apart and everybody survived except one flight attendant in that one, and they interviewed the survivor. So very interesting book if you want the survivor aspect. Okay, another little bit, this is a little older, but this is from William Langewiesche. Sorry, I'm totally pronouncing his name wrong, but Fly by Wire. This is not the book by Sully, who landed in the Hudson, but this is by a different gentleman who is a good good author that I would respect about various other aviation books. But this is all about the Hudson River, Miracle on the Hudson, if you want to read a more, happy end for an accident type of video, or type of book, rather. Here's another excellent book. This is by Lawrence Gonzales. It is all about United Airlines Flight 232. This was from 2014, but this one was a United DC-10 that had a rear engine, the center engine and the tail came apart, broke the hydraulic lines nearby. The airplane was barely controllable. The crew would not give up. They flew it to Sioux City, Iowa. They managed to put it basically on a runway, and a large amount of people survived because the crew did not give up. And this book it's a thick one, but it is excellent I just thought he did a great job unpacking this story of United 232. And, I know Tom Hanks played Sully in this whole thing with the Sully movie. Really, I would like to publicly ask Tom Hanks to please be the captain of Flight 232 Al Hayes, because he is like one of my aviation heroes, and I think he'd be really good. Or Tom Hanks, you could also play Denny Fitch. That's another guy who is one of the captains that helped bring this DC-10 in and actually save a lot of the people on board. So that is called Flight 232 by Lawrence Gonzales. And then this is a little older, but this is an accident you just never heard a lot about. It was ASA Flight 529. This is called 9 minutes, 20 seconds by Gary M. Pomerantz. This is actually an Embraer Brasilia, so it's a lot smaller airplane. And essentially one of the engines tore itself off its mounts, so it has a lot of drag, but the crew didn't give up. They kept fighting to get the airplane on the ground safely. It does crash, but 19 people survived. And so just for being a good account of an accident sequence, and, one of these more little known, but still somewhat modern accidents. This was from 1995 when it actually happened. That was ASA 529, but I would recommend checking out 9 minutes, 20 seconds. Okay. This one, it's not aviation disaster. It's an act of terrorism, but this is an excellent book, Among the Heroes by Jere Longman. And it is all about the United Flight 93 crew members and passengers who fought back when they were hijacked during the September 11th attacks. So it is a very good account of that, that whole series of events. Okay, so now let me go back in time a little bit to some books that really, these seriously got me into aviation disasters. I have so many books piled up behind me right now, but this series is called Air Disaster. There is 4 in the series. These are out of print. If you can find them, they are just so excellent. It's by Macarthur Job. They were all published in Australia. I used to buy these as a teenager. So they're quite old, but they are really excellent books. They are sort of chronological. They have amazing drawings. I just absolutely love. It's like infographics before infographics, larger format book, but he goes in depth in various accidents. Volume 1 and then 2 and 3, they go in order from basically beginning of the jet age, starting with the Comet, BOAC disasters of the 50s. But then volume 3 continues on up until 1994. But then volume 4 is interesting. It came out last, but it has a bunch of very little known, I didn't know about a lot of these accidents, with prop liners. So, Electra, other early like Connie's. So I'm an aviation history buff too. This is just super well researched and much better and easier than digging around trying to look at old CAB reports, but still excellent content. Some stories of survival, other stories of disaster. But anyway, the whole Air Disaster by Macarthur Job, sadly out of print, but excellent stuff. This one is another older book, Triumph Over Terror on Flight 847. If you want to read about hijacking and what a crew did to combat hijacking. So this was when a TWA Flight 847, 1985, was hijacked in Beirut. And here's a great picture of the captain on the back who wrote this book. There's a hijacker sticking a gun out of the cockpit. Anyway, this guy and his crew was amazingly brave. They did not want to abandon their 727. They just kept at it, worked with the terrorists for a very long time until they got out. And this is a bit of like this crew's, the captain's autobiography, but then also like talking about the actual hijacking and then like spiritual lessons that he learned from that. So it's kind of a mix of a Christian literature, Christian account of his life, and also like because he's a Christian, but most of it is about him fighting back with these terrorists and just figuring out what to do during their hijacking. So that is called Triumph Over Terror, Flight 847, by Captain John Testrake, which unfortunately this is also old, so it's out of print. This is a more educational type, I don't know what I'd call this, more of a literary education book. The Naked Pilot by David Beaty, The Human Factor in Aircraft Accidents. You can actually see some little flags in here. I read this, found it in a used bookstore. It is published in England by Airline, so it's a little older, but has a lot of very interesting accounts of some other older accidents and incidents from perspective of various things that happened, but like through the 80s, 70s, older things that you don't really hear about a lot, but he just covers a lot of human factors that lead into aviation accidents. So this is a pretty good one, The Naked Pilot by David Beaty. All right, now we're getting really far back. This is, I have to say, The Last 9 Minutes by Moira Johnston. This is a book that I used to check out from my local public library. My parents thought I was crazy, but it's all about the crash of Turkish Airlines flight 981, right? Turkish Airlines flight 981. It was a DC-10 that crashed and 300, I can't remember now. I think it's like 300 and, I can't remember the total. It was over like 350, I think, people were killed in this DC-10 crash. This is one of these books that, as a teenager, I would read it. My parents probably thought I was weird, but I was super interested in aviation and reading anything I could get my hands on. This accident is so notable because the fact is that it came out later in all the investigations that Douglas Aircraft, McDonnell Douglas, who made the DC-10, knew there was potential for catastrophic failure of the airplane, but there was airplanes that went through their production line without getting the fix applied. Super scary, super disturbing, and I had read several books on just the idea of the DC-10 saga from the basically mid-70s, but this happened in 1974 at in a forest near Paris. But it was a horrible accident, and it is totally out of print, but it is really an interesting book. The Last 9 Minutes by Moira Johnston. Okay, now I have the super old, but interesting from a historical perspective. This one, Airline Safety is a Myth, by Captain Vernon W. Lowell. It says a commercial airline pilot who has logged over 5 million miles exposes the fatal facts of flying today. Ooh. So this one is interesting. It's from 1967. So pilots were writing about aviation safety in 1967. So if you want to, go digging around on like A-Books or other used book sites, you might check this one out. It's pretty interesting. A little bit sensational, but it's from the 60s. Then we have a older one. I think this is older. And it is, yes, 1960. The Probable Cause by Robert Serling. Now, maybe if you're into the Twilight Zone like me, you've heard of Rod Serling. This is his brother, actually. And he was very interested in aviation, very interested in reporting aviation safety. And so here he's kind of walking through how to solve airplane crashes, but it's from 1960. So if you want an old and interesting historical perspective on aviation accident investigation, I actually use this as basis for some of my research on aviation safety with regards to aircraft dispatchers. And you can find that research if you want to read about it. I wrote a paper that was published, but it is on my website, www.theaviationvault.com. But anyway, this book, The Probable Cause, interesting, very interesting from a historical perspective. And then one last book, also by Robert Serling. We have Loud and Clear, the book for people who are afraid of flying. Okay, so this one is another example where, it says completely revised, 1969. It includes information that Robert Serling published in 1963 in a book called The Electra Saga. The Electra Story. That was all about the disasters involving the Lockheed Electra from basically the late 50s, early 60s. So once again, if you're, someone's on your gift list that's like totally into aviation history and accident investigation, you could definitely surprise them, make them very happy with some of these like really older books from the 1960s. Interesting to read just from the historical perspective. So yeah, check it out. I hope you guys enjoyed that. I might do some other book countdowns. I have an idea of one for instrument, but let me know what you think in the comments and make the aviation readers on your list for Christmas or birthday or whatever happy by finding them some of these good books. Have a great day from Laura at Aviation 101 with Laura.